What have I done?
My allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
Your powers are weak, old man.
I have a bad feeling about this.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father?
Hello there.
Hello there, and welcome to Kenobi Cast. My name is Bryant, and joined with me is
Robbie Rice.
And Brendan.
And of course, this is the first of many podcasts and various content that you'll be seeing on the brand new Scruffy Nerf Herder channel. We'll get into that in another episode because we are here to talk about the first episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus. A long freaking time coming. And I'm curious, did either of you think that we would ever see a day where these two characters are back on the screen?
To be honest, I was hoping for it because there was so much left open after episode 3 and just so much to fill in. And when they first, and now I just remember the moment I even saw the first trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was just so unbelievably hyped. I sat my children down, I sat my wife down, and I was like, I just wanted them to have that same excitement with me. And I just felt like it wasn't there.
It was there for me. It was there for me. Seeing Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi again is fantastic, and it brings me back to my childhood, and I'm extremely excited for the rest of this series.
Yeah, I was talking with my wife about it this weekend, and the whole Star Wars celebration is going on, which is like their big convention, and Hayden Christensen walks out on the stage, and like people are cheering like he's a Beatle, and they're just like losing their mind, and I was like, how weird must that be that when he shot this movie and released the first 3 movies, people like hated that guy's guts. And now he's like coming out on stage and our generation are now the Star Wars fans and he's just getting rabid fan responses. It's so cool to see.
I always liked him as a person and I felt bad that people hated him for no reason. But I don't know. I feel like they did such a good job, but we were children, right? I mean, we watched the movie, the first one came out when we were roughly 9 to 11, somewhere in that range, and I grew up with those movies, right? Those were our Star Wars movies, right? Like my parents and probably both of your parents' generations was the 4, 5, and 6, but 1, 2, and 3 is just, it's different for us, I think.
For sure. Now, seeing that this is the first episode, I did ask all of you ahead of time. I kind of wanted to break the ice a little bit, and we're just going to divide the audience right off the bat because this is probably the most controversial topic of them all. What are your guys' top 3 Star Wars movies?
I'll go first, and this one, actually, when you gave me this homework here, I was really trying to figure it out, and I kind of knew a couple off the top of my head just immediately, but there were a couple that I kind of struggled with internally. I would have to say my favorite movie, I'm gonna go 3-1. So my top 3 is, I'm gonna say Rogue One.
Ooh, okay.
I really enjoyed Rogue One. I thought they did a fantastic job, and just seeing that build up right into A New Hope was just, I just got chills, and it was just fantastic. I just thought they did such a great job of building characters that you cared about and understood of the sacrifice they made. And then I'd have to say number 2 is going to be Empire Strikes Back. That for me was when I really truly got really excited about Star Wars as a kid, because my dad was super into it. He's a huge Star Wars guy, and of course we watched him when we were younger, but that one really held a special place in my heart. I honestly think because of the action and the sequences and Yoda and then the AT-ATs and everything, it was just something that really meant a lot to me growing up. And then I have to say number 1 for me is episode 3.
All right. That's Revenge of the Sith, correct?
Revenge of the Sith. I just think the conclusion of that prequel trilogy, seeing Anakin become Darth Vader, and spoiler alert, but yeah, that was just
if you're listening to this podcast and you're not aware that Anakin became
my
Vader.
bad, my bad. But yeah, I truly loved that movie, and kind of how Brendan explained that those were our Star Wars movies growing up, and that's what it was for me was those first 3. So yeah, that's my 3. What about you, Brendan?
So I'm gonna really piss people off just because I'm not gonna include any of the old movies. My number 3 I would say would be episode 2. Title is Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. It's
been a long time since I've looked at all of the titles, but either way, it's episode 2. just the war sequences in that one, and then kind of the big large scale battles was always something really cool to watch. Plus, I always really liked Mace Windu. Number 2, I am going to go with Rogue One, and that's a little bit surprising even to me, because one of the things I really truly love about Star Wars is the Jedi versus the Sith, and other than the small clip at the end with Vader, there's really no Jedi Sith stuff happening in Rogue One, but I think the story that it tells, and kind of like what Robbie said leading into episode 4, just, it was so good. But none of them compare to episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which would be my number 1. It always has been since that movie came out, and I'm going to kind of echo what Robbie said. Seeing Anakin turn into Vader, just everything that he went through at the beginning of the movie, he's such a good guy still. I mean, yeah, he's kind of, you could tell he's on the verge, but by the end of the movie, he's just terrible, and seeing that transition is probably one of my favorite things about Star Wars.
Oh yeah, my wife has seen like clips of Star Wars, but she never saw the scene where Anakin killed all the younglings, and I showed it to her the other day, and she was literally just like, "What is he doing?" And then like the screen turns to black. She goes, "Did he kill those kids? Did he kill those kids?" And she just started panicking.
He sure did.
Shock.
Yeah, it's great. So it's interesting. I think our lists are kind of, we definitely have one that's in common. So my third is kind of out there, but number 3 for me is episode 9, which is The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
And I hated the new Star Wars movies when they came out in theater, but after seeing them like as a story arc and seeing like this is where it's headed, this is where we're going, that final movie is insane. Like whether like the stormtroopers are in the desert and they've got jetpacks, you got Kylo Ren and Rey fighting on the destroyed Death Star in the ocean, and then in the end, you got this gigantic fleet led by Lando Calrissian coming in to save that. It's such a cool movie. So that's got to be my number 3. Number 2 is Rogue One, and I'm just gonna echo what you guys said. I mean, it's such a great movie, like cinematic wise, the tone of it, it's so freaking fantastic. Plus, it's the first Star Wars movie that wasn't a trilogy that felt good. Like I felt like it had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I didn't have to go watch 2 more movies to figure out what was happening. It was like, oh, this is what it is. And then number 1 is Empire Strikes Back. And for me, that was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw. My dad, when they were re-released out into the theaters, they had all 3 movies available at the same time. And he was like, which one do you want to go see? And I had no idea what order they were. And I was like, I just want to see the one with snow. Like, that looks cool. Let's go see that movie. And man, the intro to the battle on Hoth and the Sky City, it's just such a great movie. So mine would go number 1, Empire Strikes Back, 2, Rogue One, and then Rise of Skywalker.
So something I wanted to kind of say about, I was kind of shocked right now that you said, The Last Skywalker being one of your top 3, and it's almost like I ask my dad constantly, because he grew up in the 70s and grew up with the original trilogy. And whenever we talk about the prequel trilogy, 1, 2, and 3, I'm always like, is this how it feels for you? Because like when 7, 8, and 9 came out, I was just felt the same as you. I was like, oh my God, what is this? This isn't Star Wars code. Just because you're throwing the Millennium Falcon in there doesn't make it Star. What is this?
Yeah.
And so I asked him, I was like, is that how you felt? And he was like, oh, absolutely. He's like, freaking Jar Jar Binks. Like, he was just so angry. And I really had to take a step back and think, if you really look at episode 1, like, aside from Darth Maul, like, I'm pretty sure everybody can agree Darth Maul is a badass, but aside from that, everything was new. I mean, pod racing, you had these droid armies, like, everything was just so odd. And it wasn't until like episode 2, like Brendan was talking about being one of his favorite ones, that thing kind of felt a little more familiar. And so like you had, clones looking like stormtroopers, and you had, more lightsaber fights. You finally had somebody that, looked like Boba Fett and kind of gave him some of his, origin and things like that. So I think that kind of made it more Star Warsy. And so I feel like I almost need to go back and rewatch 7, 8, and 9, like you said, I do remember a couple of those moments, like when Lando came and stuff with the whole Starfleet. Like it was an awesome moment. But it's like you kind of forget some of those things because you almost have something built up in your mind of what you expect it to be, and if it doesn't hit those, it's sometimes disappointing. So yeah, I feel like I need to revisit those.
Oh, I highly recommend it. Like it changed those 3 movies where like I loathe those movies so much. And then when when Aniston was born, my daughter, like we had so much free time and I was like, let me watch these movies again. And then like I watched them and I was like, these aren't as bad as I remember them being.
It's just different, and everything that's different, people just tend to think is worse. And I think my biggest problem with the three new movies is the directors quarreling, I think was the issue I had with it. One director saying, this is what's going to happen, and then another director saying, well, I don't want to do it that way. So then they just rewrite the script how they want it, and then it just doesn't make any sense between the two movies.
Oh yeah, there's very little continuity between the movies, but like I feel like, and obviously like hindsight's 2020, right? But like JJ should have just done all of them. Like with JJ starting it, they should have done. But even then, but now that I think about it, like George Lucas didn't do the first three. He got someone else to do Empire, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but he also held all the rights for it, and he signed off on everything. Whereas with the three newest movies, it was Disney. Yes, he was a creative hand in the movies, but at the same time, I guarantee if he disagreed with something that Disney said, they said, too bad, you sold us the rights.
No, I agree with that. I mean, it's super weird to see because, and that's where I feel like maybe the difference is for me with those new three ones is like when I watched them originally, there was like a year in between them. And when I got to watch them back to back, I'm like, oh, okay, I see where we're going with this, or I know where we're going with this. And you kind of already have an expectation. Like when you're in the theater and you go through the first movie and you don't even see Luke Skywalker, you're like, what the hell is this? Like, what is this movie? And then when you finally watch it for a second time, you're like, oh, you don't have that expectation. You're there for kind of, what it is. But yeah, I would recommend rewatching it.
All right, well, about this Obi-Wan podcast.
We should probably talk about Kenobi on episode 1 of our Kenobi podcast.
Right? Someone in their car right now is just like, stop talking about the prequels. Anyway, so Kenobi, the brand new Obi-Wan Kenobi show, finally has aired. We've all watched it, and I figured let's just jump straight into kind of how it began. Order 66. Padawans are running for their lives. It's the second time we've seen the temple fall in a brand new Star Wars series. Like, we saw Grogu be a part of Order 66 as well. I did have a question. Do you think that these are the Padawans that Vader killed?
I was waiting, like, when the opening sequences started, I was waiting to see Grogu. I was like, come on, just show him. Just throw him in there. And it didn't. So, it's hard to say. Obviously, there's different actors and stuff playing the children and things, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, it was all kind of chaos when it all started, and I do like that they kind of are going a little more in depth to that, because that was a massive moment in the movie that just everything was changing, and it was cool to kind of. I mean, it's sad to say it was cool to see the Jedi Temple fall, but it was cool to kind of go back and see that again and see how they're, tying it into it. So, but I don't know. Maybe it could have been those kids.
I don't think it was, only because when they talk a little bit later about that young Jedi boy, I think that was like foreshadowing of what basically happened to those kids. That's the way I kind of took it.
Okay.
Personally, like those kids kind of got out, and that's who's being hunted down now is like, they're not full-fledged Jedi, but they were Jedi in training. And that's kind of the way that I saw that scene, I guess.
That makes so much sense. I didn't even think about that.
I went into it when I was watching this scene and I saw these kids running, and I legit expected... I didn't expect Grogu, but I did expect them to run into a room and them turn around and be like, Master Skywalker, what are we supposed to do? But then I realized, oh, this is Disney. Like, Disney's not going to make a movie where we see a Jedi slaughter a bunch of kids.
To open a series.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on, then we go to Tatooine, which we see the Inquisitors, who are Darth Vader's soldiers that are hunting the Jedis now. And they randomly just park their ship in the middle of the street. And I've started to notice this trend in movies where, like, aliens don't give a fuck about where they park their ships. Like, they literally just squat it there and then they just walk like they own it. And the same thing happened in Marvel. It was one of the Avengers movie. They just dropped this ship middle of Manhattan and they're just like, we're here to take over the world. But they hear rumors of a Jedi hiding out and they go into this guy's saloon, and we're introduced to the third sister, Reva. Yeah, and she throws a knife, and the Jedi who is in hiding stops it, and that's how they uncover him. And they get into a tussle, and they kind of like, they're basically hunting Jedi. Now, you guys aren't 100% familiar with the Inquisitors, correct?
I'm not. I kind of saw a couple episodes of like the Clone Wars animated series for my kids watching it, so I kind of understand who the Grand Inquisitor is. He looks really familiar. But yeah, this Reva and the fifth brother, no clue who they were. I did think it was very clever of Reva to just throw a knife, and it kind of just, was a good intro to her character about, wasting time, and she just has this goal and this objective, and she's like, hey, this will show if the Jedi's here or not. Throw a knife at this guy's head. And
yeah, I didn't think about that, but she pretty much was like, stop talking, and just threw her knife to get him to come out.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask about the Inquisitors is, it was kind of... up until a couple years ago, I'd never watched Clone Wars, and it was my introduction to the Inquisitors was that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order video game, where you're fighting against the Inquisitors, and they're kind of hunting the Jedi. And I always thought that was kind of a really cool storyline. It's like, what happens to Vader immediately after Revenge of the Sith? And it's like, he creates this group of former Jedi or Jedi Temple Guard, and they just turn to the dark side, and their goal is to hunt down Jedis. And it almost feels like a limitless topic to kind of explore, that even if we don't get a season 2 of Obi-Wan, I would love to maybe get an Inquisitors TV show or something like that.
Yeah, that's true, especially having a group of, the dark, Force users hunting down the Jedi. I think that was something that I never even something I thought about. Everything after Order 66, you're just like, oh, that's when they were all wiped out. But that's not true. I mean, there was definitely a lot of stragglers left behind, so I like that they're diving into that as well in the live action series.
So my question, I guess, is for you two: if you were a Jedi following Order 66, would you go down to guns a-blazing, or would you be like, you want me to kill some Jedis? I'll kill some Jedis.
That's a great question. I think I would have to... I'd probably just kill Jedi. Like, sorry.
Now, are you saying like as if we were the clone troopers?
No, like if you were a Jedi. And
if we were a Jedi.
Yeah, if you were a Jedi and they showed up and they were like, we're going to kill you, or you can become an Inquisitor.
That's how they started?
Yeah, the Inquisitors are former
Jedi.
Jedis.
Alert. Oh my god, that's sick.
Yeah, I found that on Wikipedia, to be clear.
It's hard for me because I've always loved all of the dark side. In terms of Star Wars, like I've always just been obsessed with Darth Vader and everything. So I would say I'd probably join them.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I would have a hard time killing Jedis. I'd probably just go into hiding.
You need me to take out some younglings? Darth Vader? Let me know. I'm just kidding. Just to be very clear, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, like in our reality, I mean, that's why so many turned, because, I mean, think about it from their actual perspective instead of like how we think, right? Because the entire Jedi Temple just fell. Mm-hmm. Meaning that this organization that is now telling you that you either die or work for them has the ability to topple one of the biggest positive forces in the galaxy, and they did it. Like, they're not saying they're going to do it. They already did it. So your choice is either I fight here and now and die, which is the most likely scenario, or I now work for you and I got to hunt down some kids that escaped. Like, I think most people, that's probably why there's so many Inquisitors, right? Because most people would take the other option.
Well, and then there's also the side of it with you guys not watching Clone Wars, and like this isn't too much of a spoiler because I think they touch on it in the movies a little bit, is that, the Jedis have always been the keepers of peace. Like, that's what they're supposed to be. And when you think about it, like the Clone Wars is lasting all these years, and they're going out on missions to destroy the Separatists and hunt down people and do these missions. And it's like, at some point, I think you have Jedis within the Order that are like, we're no longer keepers of peace, we're just soldiers, we're mercenaries. So they start questioning the Jedi Order. So when someone like Anakin steps aside or Vader steps away and the Emperor takes over, I think a lot of them are like, yeah, you know what? The Jedi were wrong. We need to join you guys and follow the Empire.
Yeah, it's also something where you have to think about, like, sometimes some of the people were viewing Jedis as these, like, wizards. Like, not everybody had even seen a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people are just new to that concept. So when you're thinking about what your government is telling you, essentially, and they're the ones that kind of, keep you in a job and things like that, and then you have this mystical beings that are just able to move things with their mind and fight with, these laser swords. It all kind of seems a little odd. So sometimes it can be hard, I would think, being in that universe, to immediately just take the words that, yeah, they're these peacekeepers, because some people had never even seen them.
Oh yeah, which talking about peacekeepers, that kind of segues us in perfectly. We finally get our first look at Obi-Wan next, right? And he is butchering, I think, like a sand dragon is what it looks like. And then he's basically stealing some of the meat to feed his like weird alien horse camel, which the CGI on this thing looks so stupid good that it literally, I watched this and I was just like, God, they just need to remake the prequels. I was like, they need to go back and just redo the CGI, because if it's this good, prequels came out, I think, PlayStation 2 era, and we're at the PlayStation 5. So like you're talking OG Xbox, PlayStation 2. And if you just look at from a video game perspective, what graphics look like from that era to where we are now, man, they could do some crazy things with those prequels if they changed it.
So I did have a question. Was he stealing the pieces of meat for his EUI or whatever, Iapui, whatever they're called?
Credits for even Googling the name of the animal. I didn't look that up.
I was watching the subtitles and it grunted.
Oh, okay.
It said Iapui. It was like EIOPWE or something like that. And I was like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, so I saw him like cutting the meat and he folded it up and then he like fed it. I was assuming he was feeding it to his horse.
I wasn't sure. They showed it like 3 times, him cutting it and hiding it, but I was like, I don't know. I was not sure if I turned away the first time he did it or if it actually showed him giving it to that animal, because I kept wondering, like, why is that for himself? Or
so then after that, we go to Obi-Wan's home, which is in a cave, which comes to the first bit of comedic relief in a very, very dark opening of a show. We get Tika the Jawa, who is selling Obi-Wan parts, and then his evaporator breaks, and he's like, hey man, something wrong with your evaporator? And he's like, yeah, someone took, or my motherboard went missing. And then he gets excited and he reaches behind him and he has the very same motherboard in his cart. And I was just like, that's perfect humor, man. It's so great.
This is exactly what a Jawa would do. I thought the Jawa was his roommate at first, to be honest. So it turned out that wasn't so. But I was like, man, this show is just really, really trying to lay something on there.
The Obi-Wan and Jawa show. It's just like a nice little like. That would be great. From there, we see Obi-Wan, who clearly still has PTSD. He's sleeping. He's dreaming of the prequels, which is understandable because I think some fans still have PTSD from the prequels as well. But he tries to then force communicate with Qui-Gon. And that leads me to like insane thought. But like, are we going to see Liam Neeson in this show? That's what I want to
know. That's exactly what I want to know. When he woke up and was like, Master, and he was like calling for him, I was like, oh my God. We're going to see Liam Neeson's like, come on. I was just so excited for it. Because, I mean, that's what Yoda told him right at the end of, Revenge of the Sith was, I'm going to teach you how to communicate with, I remember his exact verbiage he used, but I don't think he straight up said Qui-Gon, but he said, like, Masters of Old or something like that. And that was when Obi-Wan was like, Qui-Gon. I think that'll be cool if they do that.
I assume we will. I assume we'll get Force Ghost Qui-Gon at some point. I don't know if they'll do it early. It may be like a end of the season, like Qui-Gon shows himself finally. But I think that we will get a glimpse of him.
From there, Uncle Owens, we go to his house, and Obi-Wan is kind of being a creeper, just spying on Luke Skywalker. And he leaves a gift on Luke Skywalker's porch. And on his way back home, we run into the Jedi who the Inquisitors were hunting on Tatooine, and his name was Nari. And he recognizes Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's like, no, I don't know who you're talking about. My name is Ben. Get out of my way. And Obi-Wan, he's like, come on, man, stop talking to me. And he says, you want my help? Take your lightsabers to the middle of the desert and bury them in the ground. We lost the fight. The time of the Jedi is over, which I thought was a really crazy line to come from like this crazy warrior from the prequels.
Especially someone who truly believed, like deeply believed in the Jedi Order too.
Yeah, but you got to think where Obi-Wan. You got to think where Obi-Wan was at that point. Like, I think that if you go back a couple scenes in your notes of the PTSD dream that he had, right? Like, Obi-Wan lost everything at the end of that, and he lost his best friend. He lost his whole religion, if you will, as the Jedi Order is constantly being referred to as. And he has resigned himself to give up at this point. And then he has some kid come out of nowhere that's a Jedi in training and is like, I need your help. And it's like, yo, I just had to kill my best friend. Like, see ya.
Not just that, but I pretty much trained my best friend to overthrow the Empire and destroy everything that we've loved. I gave birth to Hitler, essentially. Like,
I loved Uncle Owen's little, rebuttal to him where he was like,
oh yeah,
we talked about when he was of age that he must be trained, and he was like, yeah, kind of like you trained Anakin. And I was just like, oh snap. He just, wow. He threw that in his face.
So after that comes one of the craziest things that I did not expect from this series. We go to Alderaan, which is, we never get to see Alderaan because Vader blows it up in the first movie.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Sorry, guys. But we get a young Princess Leia, which I haven't read any reviews or comments about this show, but I feel like this might be one of the most controversial moments of the show. So, like, this is a choice to be like, yo, we're going to keep going down the Leia path. What'd you guys think about when you saw Leia?
I was a little, I don't want to say confused at first, but I love that they were showing Alderaan because they always talked about how beautiful it was and how green it was, and it was always kind of talked about. But yeah, like, we never saw it except for it being blown to smithereens. But I thought it was cool that they at least were visiting that place. Love the actress that they chose to play Leia because she just has that witty attitude about her that kind of is what Princess Leia was.
Yeah.
So I just love seeing that as a child too, because you always think, like, when you're seeing like the older movies and even the newer ones, she still has some of that witty attitude. R.I.P. Carrie Fisher, but it was awesome seeing that they found a child that could embody that witty sense of attitude that was coming back with smart remarks, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure what they were going to do with this series when I saw that they had finally actually announced it. And thinking about it now that I've watched it, or at least the first part of it, it kind of makes sense that they're going to go after the Leia storyline. It's smart to go the Leia route because, I mean, Owen makes it very clear, right? And are we to this scene yet? You mentioned.
Yeah, that's literally the next scene that we're going to talk about. So,
he makes it very clear with Obi-Wan, like, to stay away from Luke. Like, yeah. And there's kind of nowhere else you can go with Obi-Wan at that point unless you're just going to have a whole show about Obi-Wan creeping on Luke, which is kind of a weird concept, in my opinion. So I think going the Leia route is smart, and I did not expect it whatsoever, but so far I'm genuinely enjoying it.
Okay. My only concern, and this got like kind of put out very quickly for me, was like when I saw they were doing Leia, I was like, well, how are they gonna, like, she's gonna meet Obi-Wan, but then like when she like records on the droid, she's like, you served with my father in the Clone Wars. And I was like, wouldn't she just be like, yo, you saved me once, I need you to save me again. Like, you're my only hope. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But then my wife, in all her wisdom, said, we live in worlds with multiverses, so shut the fuck up. Which I thought was fine. I was like, yeah, I can't be too hard on it. So, but moving to the next scene, Obi-Wan, Uncle Owen, they get into it. We have that classic line of the boy must be trained, and Owen comes back with the snap of the year of saying, just like you trained Anakin. And that hit like a knife. It was super crazy. And then right after that, they walk outside and the Inquisitors show up. And they're literally right next to Obi-Wan. And I'm like, nobody can force sense Obi-Wan, like being 10 feet away from you. But we live in a world with multiverses, so I'm just overthinking it. And then Reva threatens Uncle Owen, and like that's the first time we get to see this dissension in the ranks, because the other Inquisitors are like, nah, this is not what we're doing it. We're here to find Jedis. We're not here to scare people. And then we jump right back into Alderaan, where there's a party. Everybody's hanging out there. We see C-3PO is hanging out with people, translating conversations. And we see Bail Organa, which I always forget that this dude is in Star Wars, which is like Leia's dad. But every time I see him, and I don't know if Brendan, you feel this way, this is the dude from Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, oh, it's the guy from Sons of Anarchy. But then when I watched Clone Wars again, he was in Clone Wars. And I was like, oh, he was in Star Wars before Sons of Anarchy. It's crazy.
Yeah. I love how much they kept the same actors. Like, I think they just did such a good job with that. Yeah, with Uncle Owen and with him, and it just was awesome.
So then from there, Leia skips out on, her duties as being a princess to go and back to her tree to watch the spaceships take off, and she ends up getting kidnapped by space thugs. And I love Star Wars, and they can do very little wrong, but this has to be the worst chase sequence in the histories.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you made it. Because I totally wrote that down in my notes. I was like, what is
There's
happening
one
here?
point that the alien's chasing her, and she goes under a log, and the alien hits it, and he's like, where'd this log come from?
There's just even like when she would like get right to them and like she's in grabbing distance from them. Like she had time to stop and then like turn around and run a different direction. They're just like turning with her. And I'm like, what is happening here? They couldn't do a retake on this one? Yikes.
Yeah, they all sat in the editing bay, and they're like, yeah, this is good. This is good.
You guys didn't want to talk about it was Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers? Who played Vect? Yeah.
That was the kidnapper?
Yeah, the leader, Vect.
Wow, I did not know that.
I didn't even know that.
That's I always wonder, like, I'm a nobody on the internet, but I can't even imagine getting a phone call one day and someone be like, hey, you want to be into Star Wars? Like,
he's done a lot of things. Did you know also the fifth brother, one of the Inquisitors, the dude that has like the umbrella-shaped helmet? He's actually Han from Fast and Furious.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one either.
His voice sounded familiar when he was talking, even though it sounded like they added a bunch of digital effects to it to make him sound more evil. But
yeah. Leia gets kidnapped, right? And then Obi-Wan's pager goes off, and it's the Organas asking for help. And he's super reluctant because he's like, I'm watching this boy through telescopes or through binoculars. I can't really leave. I'm not who I used to be. The Jedi lost. Go bury your daughter in the desert and just move on. And he's like, find someone else. And then a really crazy scene that I never thought I would see on a Disney show was Obi-Wan's walking through Tatooine, one of the cities, and the Inquisitors find Nari, and they literally like crucify him in the streets, which was insane. And I think Obi-Wan has like this realization that like, this is someone that I could have saved. And I feel like that's the turning moment for this character where he's like, all right, it's time to be the hero again. What do you guys think?
yeah, I was kind of a little shocked on the scene as well. I mean, obviously it wasn't too gruesome, but just showing a body in town square was just a little kind of shocking. But I mean, you understand they're sending a message, and yeah, Obi-Wan I think was seeing that, but he's lost so many people that he's tried to save that it unfortunately was just another person that he wasn't able to save. And even then, I'm not sure if it was a turning moment maybe for him. Maybe it was. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I didn't really feel that sense of it. But yeah, that absolutely could be. That was a good point you made.
Yeah, and honestly, I wasn't really that shocked because I figured there was kind of one of two ways that what'd you say his name was, Nari?
Yeah.
Nari's storyline was going to go. Either option A, Nari ends up dead, which is what happens, or option B, Nari tells somebody that he knows where Obi-Wan Kenobi is. And so when
Whoa, are you hinting that Obi-Wan Kenobi killed him?
No.
That we're going to get like a deleted scene where Obi-Wan's like, this guy's going to talk.
Oh my God, you just uncovered it. Spoiler alert.
No, what I mean by that is when I saw the boots, like when they start that scene and they just kind of show the feet, I knew who it was.
Yeah.
So I wasn't shocked whatsoever because I kind of knew that he had to fail saving him to be able to kind of move forward with the whole Leia storyline.
For sure. And then we kind of get this scene where like Obi-Wan's like headed home, and the droid goes off like alerting him that someone's at his house, and he walks in and there's a cloaked figure, and it's Bail Organa. And he's like, hey man, I really need your help. They took Leia. And he has this line that I thought was super cool where he says, you couldn't save Anakin, but you can save Leia. One last fight. And maybe if seeing a dead Jedi like in the streets wasn't enough. Maybe that was the line that kind of clicked. But from there, he goes out, middle of the desert, digs up 2 buried lightsabers. And I'm assuming here that one of those is Anakin's, correct?
Correct, it is, because in A New Hope, he gives Anakin's lightsaber to Luke, said, this is your father. This was your father's, so.
Yeah.
I immediately questioned that at first, too. I was like, wait, 2? And I was like, oh, duh. I'm like,
what if at an old age, Obi-Wan just goes dual lightsabers? And we get a scene where Anakin's got 1 red lightsaber and Obi-Wan goes dual-fisted. That'd be so sick.
That'd be sick. Don't think it's going to happen, but that'd be
No,
sick.
yeah. And then we go back to the spaceship where Leia is kidnapped. She's tied up, and we lose our first hero of the series. So if you haven't seen it, spoiler alerts, Leia's got a robot named Lola, and brutally killed.
R.I.P.
I assume
the saddest moment.
they're going to be selling Lolas at every single Disney theme park moving forward. But they throw her, and then we find out that Reva, the Inquisitor, is behind the kidnapping of Leia. And it was all a ploy to bring Kenobi out of hiding, which I didn't see that coming. And I will be the first to admit it, that was kind of a surprise to me.
I thought it was genius on her part, being the one to do that, because they hinted a couple times in the episode that she was obsessed with finding Kenobi, and just like her knife throw at that, bartender's face, which made the Jedi stop it, that was essentially her way of drawing him out, so it was smart.
Well, what I don't understand is how do people know that that's Anakin's kid?
I don't think they knew it was Anakin's kid. I think they knew that Organa and Obi-Wan were friends. And just as if my kid was kidnapped and you were in hiding and you thought people were alive, I would go to you and be like, yo, we need to go find my kid. Because I don't think anybody knows that that's Anakin's kid. I think they just assume that that's somebody that Organa adopted.
Yeah, I think it was more so just...
So you think it was a political kidnapping?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I don't think anybody... I know some things from the comics that I don't really want to jump into, but even Anakin doesn't know that he has kids yet in the series. So that isn't until like a little further on after New Hope that he kind of finds that out.
Yeah, and I knew that part, which is why I was trying to figure out how other people knew, but I guess I didn't think about it as a complete political kidnapping.
If we just talk about Obi-Wan walking towards that transport ship with that lightsaber on his belt.
Like John Wayne getting ready to go to war, man.
I was like, whoa, he's back, baby! He's back! That's how I felt.
Yeah, that is how it ends, right? Kenobi approaches the spaceport. The pilot's like, are you coming or not? And he pulls out his ticket, and we see his lightsaber on the side, and the episode ends. Overall, I think a really solid episode, exactly what I wanted from the first kind of dive back into this character. What about you guys?
I loved it. I'm super excited about this series. It's just that first episode made me really excited. I was super happy that there was a second one to watch right after that because, like you said, everything I wanted so far. I didn't feel like anything was really too slow. They had enough of where you believe the series could go with, being more geared on Leia. So I was just really excited after the first episode and can't wait for some more.
Yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and like I said, I wasn't sure kind of going into it how they were going to play this off, right? Because obviously we see the big jump from young Obi-Wan to old Ben, and now they're adding story in between those two time points. So far, I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I definitely look forward to see what they do with the rest of this story.
Anything else you guys want to talk about from the show? Or was there anything that you guys wrote down in your notes?
I just commenting on that chase scene. I just put Leia chase scene was laughable. That was it.
Yeah, it was so silly. He literally she ducked under the smallest tree, and the guy acted like the tree was 30 feet tall in his way, and I was like, homie, you could have jumped over that tree in a second.
But there's things that I'm starting to notice, there's a trend in Star Wars, on Disney Plus, where there's things they're not good at. And every show has it. For me, I think it was the Boba show, and I don't know if you guys have seen Boba or not, but spoiler alert, there's a fight scene in the first episode. And it is the most Xena Warrior Princess fight scene that I've ever seen in my life. And I'm just like, this isn't Star Wars. What am I watching here? So I feel like there's just certain things that, I don't know, the Lucasfilms just hasn't mastered yet. And hopefully, by the end of the series, chase scenes will be one of them.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. I think we got it, guys. Thank you guys again for so much for listening and coming on and talking about it. We will see you all in the next episode of Kenobi Cast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow the channel on all of social media. And, of course, if you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure to follow us on Spotify. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next episode.
Thanks, everybody.
Kenobi Cast. Kenobi Cast.